Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Teena Jha, you're watching Perspective. On the show today, we focus on a development that sent shockwaves through India's tech and professional community. Late last week, the Trump administration announced a staggering $100,000 fee on H1B visa petitions, a move that President Donald Trump justified by alleging abuse of the existing H1B system and citing national security concerns. The sweeping order triggered panic, especially among Indian professionals who make up over 70% of H1B visa holders. Tech majors like Amazon and Microsoft rushed to advise employees to return to the US before the order took effect on the 21st of September, while anxious workers scrambled for clarity. Amid the confusion and hundreds of Indians reportedly booking flights back home, the White House issued a clarification that the $100,000 charge is a one-time payment, not an annual fee, and it applies only to the new H1B petitions filed after the 21st of September 2025, not to the renewals or the existing visas. Crucially, the fee is to be paid by the companies, not by the employees. Yet, despite these clarifications, key questions remain. How will this reshape hiring, talent mobility, and India's IT services industry? What does it mean for the future of skilled migration to the US? We'll break down the implications of this H1B proclamation with distinguished guests joining us on the program. I'm pleased to welcome Ambassador Manju, Seth, former diplomat. Ambassador, thank you for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. And Mr. Pathikrit, Payne, Senior Research Fellow, Dr. Syama Prasad, Mookerjee Research Foundation. Mr. Payne, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program as well. Ambassador, let's begin the discussion with you. First, with your thoughts on how do you read Washington's decision to impose a staggering $100,000 fee on the new H1B petitions? Do you think it's purely a domestic political move, mainly to cater to the demands of the Make America Great Again activists, or does it mark a structural shift in the US immigration policy?
I think it's a combination of both. And also, I believe somewhere, as many experts have pointed out, it is somewhere also a targeting of India again, in addition to the tariffs. So I think this is a two-pronged, sort of strategy that the US has adopted. On one hand, to target or to put pressure on India, and also on the other hand, to try and get jobs back to the Americans. But these visas were something that were given as to make these companies, grow all the companies, because this talent was lacking in the US, which I think somehow has not been spoken about by the Americans and by the American government. And I think they're only saying that, and as you saw, they announced it first and then said, no, it's only a one time, it'll be in the future, it's not going to impact current H1B visa holders. So it has caused confusion. And yes, Make America Great Again is one of their aims, one of the main stated reasons why they have gone in for this. But again, I believe there's also been, I read about the fact that it's been misused by some companies and some outsourcing and other companies who get large scale H1B visa holders into the country and then hire them out to the different companies. And so it's an exploitative aspect also in some cases. So I think that should have been the main focus. They should have addressed that, the misuse of the visa, the misuse of getting people in, immigrants coming for working, rather than the way it has been done. And now it has put a lot of uncertainty for a lot of students who have just joined. Up to now, it was assumed or presumed by many of these companies, by these students, that yes, once we are there, we study from American universities and we will get some, jobs. If not all of them would get, many of them would get jobs under the H1B visa system. But now this huge hike of $100,000 per new application, it's put a question mark on the whole system, on the whole functioning. And I believe in the long term, really, the American economy, the American people, will be impacted negatively rather than creating jobs. It's going to create, more problems for the economy and for the growth of America.
Certainly. How does it, in the larger, run, impact the mobility and especially the skilled workers globally? Something that we will reflect on in due course of the program. But Mr. Payne, first, your interpretation of this very, very unprecedented and shocking move. But do you think it reflects a rising protectionist sentiment in the United States, which could, going forward, spill over into other, say, trade categories? Because as Ambassador rightly said, it's more pressure on India after the tariffs and after the kind of tensions that have been simmering between the two countries in recent weeks. Do you think it's another pressure tactic by the Trump administration?
Well, I hope I'm audible. See, frankly, yes, it is definitely part of the design of putting more and more pressure on India. I'm sure this is one of the most important reasons that they want to put more pressure on India. Because after calling India a dead economy, after trying to appropriate all the credit of Indian armed forces during Operation Sindoor, after pushing India for opening up the dairy, industry or the poultry and fisheries and agriculture industry, when the Americans could not do that, and certainly no Indian government will allow that because the livelihood of 15 crore people are involved. After pushing India to stop taking oil from Russia, which is not possible for a country like India, because cost is a very critical factor when we import energy at a large, in such huge amount. I think they're trying to hit some of the sectors, like after giving the 50% tariff, they thought India will succumb, but India did not succumb. So then they thought that let's put this one. And yes, of course, this tariff, hike in the fee for H1B visa, if they think that it is going to impact India so much that it will make Indian government crumble, then certainly it is not going to happen. There are two aspects to it. Number one, yes, it is a reality. The world is going through tectonic shifts. So every student who studies from top tech institutes cannot take it for granted that invariably they will all have a safe passage to United States. That reality is today, and we all have to accept it. Secondly, if you look at it, the excuses that are being given by United States that because the H1B visa holders undercut the salaries and that's why they get the jobs and not the Americans, it is a fallacy. Because the average salary which is paid to H1B visa holders primarily from India, 70% are Indians, is between $100,000 to $200,000 per year, which is more than the average household income in United States. Secondly, if you look at the areas where the Indians generally work, which is AI and enterprise software, chip design, cloud infrastructure, there is a sheer shortage of skill sets in United States. And that is why the H1B visa program has been there. Now, if you look at two aspects, number one, since the time of COVID, today, most of these enterprise tech companies involve almost 55 to 60% of their employees from America itself. It's only 40% of the high-end research works, which are given to the immigrant workers who come through the H1B visa. Secondly, if you look at what has happened today, in spite of all the threats and the warnings by Trump administration, they could not stop semiconductor companies or mobile manufacturing companies like Apple from investing in India. Because cost-wise, it is far more feasible to manufacture in India than to manufacture in the United States. Right. Third, if you see the large number of GCCs which has come up in India, Global Capability Centers of Fortune 500 companies, there are almost 1,900 of them in India. So what is happening is that if they keep on pushing this, and I think, as has been rightly mentioned, there is a lot of confusion. They are yet to clarify whether it is for 1 year or 3 years. They're yet to clarify whether there's a renewal fee of $100,000 more after 3 years. What is going to happen is that first there will be court cases. There will be pushback by the Wall Street, which means the tech companies will push back because cost-wise and talent-wise, it's a problem. You can stop Indians from going there, but it does not necessarily translate into the same American people having the same kind of skill sets.
Absolutely.
That will not happen. What would happen is that if they push so much, you would find more of the work becoming offshore. Without bringing people to America to work, they will push more of the work to be done from remote centers in India. That is one. But I think on the opportunity side, if you look at it, there is certain pressure in the short run, no doubt. And certain elements will try to blame Indian government for that, because that's the ultimate narrative.
We will come to the opportunities, but let's first discuss the impact, at least in the short run, and especially, Ambassador, given that over 71% of H1B holders are Indians, the consequences are going to be something that we can't ignore. The MEA has also said that there will be humanitarian consequences by way of disruption of families. So we do not succumb to pressure, even if it's a pressure tactic by the Trump administration. We will not succumb to the pressure. But when it comes to 70% of your Indian professionals in the country being impacted, how do we navigate through this diplomatically?
Yeah, I think what I look at another aspect of this. If, as per the clarifications issued by the State Department and by the Immigration Department, the U.S. Immigration Department, that this would not impact current H1B visa holders and their renewals, and it would be only it would only be for the fresh ones. So yes, it would impact fresh so Indians coming in, the fresh lot. The current lot will not be impacted. But also, if you look at, but yes, for families it might impact, because many of them have come recently and the families have not yet joined them. And for fresh visas, that is another aspect to be looked at, whether the families would have to pay. For the families to come, the companies would have to pay this huge amount. So that remains to be seen. But yes, it would impact new hires and new hiring, and the current ones, their families. So I don't think that there'd be an immediate impact on the current functioning or the current numbers which are there already in the US. Mm-hmm. Yes, new hiring, fresh hiring would be impacted. And yes, we would take it up, because actually, see, we cannot do very much, because visa issuing, visa rules, visa fees are all very sovereign sovereign items, and nobody else can dictate to another country that you should do this or not do this, or because our people will get impacted. So I don't think diplomatically there's not too much that we can do, not too much that can be done by the government. But yes, we can facilitate. We've opened the helplines in the embassies and consulates in the US to, if there is any impact of on the visas to be renewed or for passports to be renewed. I think that we will definitely immediately facilitate, and that's why we are helpline there. If any of them want to go back, that definitely. But as I said, fresh applications will be impacted, and I think there's also been. I was reading about the talk about the big 4 or 5 companies who would be terribly impacted, where most of the Indian workers are there, or for seeking exemptions under the rules. So they're all studying the impact. They're all studying how to navigate this and how to find solutions, because and as very rightly mentioned by Mr. Pathikrit, it might be that they'll offshore their workload, or they might just set up their companies branches in India and not get people from India into the US. So they will all look at it, but diplomatically at the moment I'm not sure we have too much of space or negotiation space, because it is a sovereign function. So we cannot tell any other country to revise their rules, or to look at finding or telling them that you can't charge fees. But yes, as mentioned again by Mr. Payne, they can also go to the courts to see if something can be done, because they came with a particular under certain terms and conditions, and now suddenly this is happening. So current cases, existing cases, I think will not be impacted. The new ones will definitely be impacted.
Back home, there is also talk that this move could push India into looking into its own opportunities, creating opportunities for those who come back. So in the short run, it may be shattering the American dream of a lot of youngsters, but it will give them an opportunity to remain in India and accelerate the journey towards making India a Viksit Bharat. So that is something that I heard Union Minister Piyush Goyal also talk about today. A lot of big industrialists, Mr. Payne, are also saying that this could be an opportunity for India, and we could leverage that potential in this time of crisis. How do you think it creates an opportunity, especially in retaining the talent and the skill pool? Are we ready enough to sort of manage the consequences of this fallout in the short run?
First and foremost, we have to accept this fact that our top tech institutes were never created to, churn out students whose only purpose of life would be to go to US and serve the American economy. Somewhere a pushback would have come today or tomorrow. Secondly, today's India is not what it was 30, 40 years back when brain drain was justified. It is also a reality that we, for a long period of time, could not make big tech companies as US has, because it was always easier to get an H1B visa and go there and work in a big tech company. So many did not do it in spite of their potential. Today, if you look at India, today you have the third largest ecosystem for startups in the world. Today, you have far more support from the government. If you look at the way defense innovation has worked in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the way innovation for defense excellence, IDEX works, there are more than 500 companies working with the Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO. So the ecosystem that the government of India today is pushing and putting up in terms of helping startups to come up, in terms of creating deep tech companies, there is a 1 lakh crore corpus which has been created for what is called patient capital, which means tech innovation takes time. It takes a decade before you come out with something viable. It is far, with all due respect, it's far more easier to start an e-commerce company. So the government is coming up with corpus in those areas. If you look at the kind of areas that has been opened up for the private sector, whether you talk about the space technology sector, which was only a monopoly of ISRO, today has been opened up. If you look at drone sector, if you look at sectors where semiconductors, there's a large push being given by government of India to semiconductors in terms of national semiconductor mission. The effort that has been created as part of production linked incentive to push for what you call, setting up an electronic manufacturing ecosystem in India. I think these are great steps forward. A large number of Fortune 500 companies based in India are of Indian origin, are willing to fund new organizations to come up. Many of our, great people who have worked in the IT sector have started their own venture capital companies, like the likes of TV, Mohandas Pai, who have started Aryan Capital, and a new one called 314 Capital. So I think today availability of capital is not a problem. Today, Indian government is far more inclusive and embracing, willing to talk to them, work with them. And it does create opportunity. If there are certain bureaucratic bottlenecks, then we have to address those issues. I think one suggestion today, what Mohandas Pai gave, is that India should come up with a deep tech fund of 50,000 crore. And if you look at United States, the rise of the big tech companies is because they partnered with the government of United States in many sectors. That is something that can be done in India. And I think it creates a definite opportunity to create our own big tech companies in India. Or as it is, Prime Minister Modi himself in the recent past mentioned that India should have its own apps. Eventually, if you have to be genuinely Atmanirbhar, you have to have tech sovereignty. You need to have your own search engines. You need to have your own social messaging sites. You need to have your own proprietary softwares. You need to have everything else. Today, India has already reached a stage where we are the second largest manufacturer of mobile phones of the world. From assembly to component manufacturing, now you need to have your own proprietary technology. Work is going on. It's a work in progress. But I think if there was ever a time which was best for India to unleash its true potential, I think this is the one. What happened in terms of this MAGA concept of United States and the pushback that is happening from there, I think in spite of initial hiccups, it is sort of a blessing in disguise. Because if we can actually harness this potential, then sky is the limit. And I think, my last point is that unfortunately, if you look at Indian engineering colleges, even the best of the ones, we teach students how to run machines and not how to make machines. That is the biggest problem. So unless we change the curriculum, and I think the government is also working on that area. So there is a huge potential. How we leverage that, the way we leverage the Y2K problem to create our own breed of Indians IT, software services companies, which today is inseparable, indispensable, a $300 billion company industry. I think that is the way we can take it forward if there is the right mix of government intent and private initiative. Both are there today. But I reiterate, a time would have come when pushback would have come. And we cannot guarantee forever that best of Indian students would automatically get a job and permanent settlement in US. That would not happen. Someday it would have stopped. So good that it has happened now. I think it's a manageable problem. The number of people who might get affected is probably 50,000, 60,000, compared to what would have happened if we had opened up sectors like dairy, poultry, fisheries, and agriculture, where more than 15 to 20 crore people are involved in their livelihood. So just to keep America happy, good that we did not open those sectors.
You're right. I think that's the sentiment largely back home, because a lot of decision makers, policy makers are also suggesting that it may be a setback in the short run, but in the longer run, the fact that you stay in your own country, we are doing what we can to create domestic opportunities and strengthen the indigenous ecosystem so that it serves their needs as well. But Ambassador, I also came across a perspective that by unleashing measures like these against India, which is known to be a resilient economy, COVID was a huge setback for the world, but the resilience of India is something that stood out. I recall the Prime Minister called it a moment of Aapada mein avsar, and that is where we discovered our own strengths. Perhaps this is the time when we work on our own opportunities, but it's also a lesson not just for India, but for several other countries on how America is closing its doors to highly skilled immigration, highly skilled talent pool. Do you think it's a move towards not making America great again, but making America alone again? That's something that I came across, and I thought of asking your opinion on the same.
No, I agree with that sentiment. Absolutely, I think it's a ill-informed and misguided kind of steps that they are taking without looking at the implications, the total implications. They are very short-sighted, I think. And if you recall, America is a country of immigrants. And so when they say Americans, whom are they referring to? Is it only to white Americans? But and white Americans from where? Well, it's a mix. It's always been a mix. If you go back, America is not only of one race. It is right from its inception. It is a country of immigrants, and that's one of the reasons it has prospered, has been open to immigration. So I don't think they're looking at that. And if they're looking at having only a kind of biased kind of growth or making America great again from that point of view, I don't think it's going to serve their interests either. The economy is going to be impacted, and I think these steps that the government has, yes, it might increase their coffers. It might increase money in the government coffers. And if that is the only aim, it might achieve that. But the rest of the economy, the rest of the country, the people, it's not going to create jobs overnight. It's not going to create, resilience in their economy. And I think it's really going to impact. So I think what the Trump administration is managing to do is to isolate the American system, the American government, and to also, I think, instead of making America great again, it may well have the opposite effect.
You're right. Mr. Payne, if the U.S. becomes less attractive to skilled immigrants, which includes not just Indians, we know there are people from across the world, across countries, across continents going to the U.S. and, imagining a better life there. But if the U.S. becomes less attractive because of measures like these, because of their more protectionist policies, which countries stand to gain? We are going to create opportunities for our own, but which countries do you think standing to gain if this continues?
Look, I think among the top economies, India is the only country which has near 8 to 9% growth rate, nominal growth rate. If you look at the other economies, most of Western Europe is in deep crisis because of the Russia-Europe conflict. US has a big problem of debt. So much of what Trump is trying to do, pushing countries to invest in his own country and taking all these hefty fees, is to somehow address that debt issue. Apart from India, I don't think there are too many countries except for China who would benefit a lot, because, creating an ecosystem like that takes a lot of time. It is said that there are two reasons why United States became what United States is today. One is definitely the fact that dollar is the currency which is used for foreign exchange reserve. It's a reserve currency and a trading currency, and it's only US has the right to print the dollar. Second has been the H1B visa. That is a given. There is no other reason because of which United States is today what is United States. So if you look at the immediate country which has that giant tech pool of people and a ready-made almost market, invariably it is India, and the American companies also know that. So if you see many American companies trying to push back, going to the court or shifting the centers to India, there is no emotion involved. It's primarily because of the fact that it is difficult to replace the Indian worker, it is difficult to replace the Indian market, and it is difficult to replace the skill sets, or a combination of all three. Today, I don't think Europe will be in a better position to leverage it, because Europe has reached a critical saturation level in terms of economy. They have their own crisis of already having almost outsourced manufacturing to China. They have an energy crisis because of the conflict with Russia, and there's a security problem. So far as Africa is concerned, as a continent, it is still a long way before it can harness its real potential. But among the developing countries, which truly has come out from the fragile 5 list in 2013 to be among the major 4 economies of the world, it invariably is India. So far as Japan and Germany are concerned, look, they are no doubt big economics, but there is a problem in terms of in-house capacity building to cater to the domestic market. So I think, if America, collapses or reduces as an attractive destination, many of the companies would prefer to go in a market which has the potential. In that way, I think India has a great opportunity of not just accommodating all those who might get denied in United States, but also in some way allowing an ecosystem to thrive where top tech brains of the world are allowed to be part of India's startup ecosystem as well. I'm sure there are great minds in Sri Lanka looking for an opportunity. I think India can be a great country to give that. I'm sure there are many, probably in Southeast Asia, looking for the kind of foundation that India has, both in terms of economic opportunity, technological base, and the government support and the market. I think India can be a great opportunity in terms of helping Southeast Asian entrepreneurs to come up. So I think instead of I think we should some way emulate the H1B visa program that US had or has to do something in India. I think rest of the world, well, there are challenges of their own, whether they think like that. If you look at, if you say, for example, many of the other South Asian countries, I think the workforce they send are not tech workforce. They are into other kind of work. Whether they can emulate that in their own country, I don't know. But our work and the skill sets that has been definitely created is very niche, and that cannot be replicated everywhere else. So I think India is probably one of the very few countries, given its population, market, aspiration, ambition, government support, the revival of the nationalism that we must become a Viksit Bharat, create Viksit Bharat by 2047. I think apart from China, if any country has a potential, invariably it is India. Back to you.
So while, we do what we can to position ourselves in that global competition, global talent market and attract the best, which can contribute to our development journey. Ambassador, one last question from you on how we can navigate with America despite the divergences in recent weeks. We've had a strategic partnership with them, especially over the last 2.5 decades. It's been a relationship that has been on an upswing. There are multiple factors which have led to some kind of divergences that we see. But looking ahead, how do you look at both countries navigating through these short-term divergences and not let these impact people-to-people linkages, which have been the bedrock of our relationship?
Absolutely. I think that is, we can see that the trade negotiations are back on track. So I think there is this, conversations and negotiations ongoing. The rest of the relationship has not been impacted so much. But yes, I think there's become a bit of, should I say, a trust deficit between India and the US. And I think India needs to, of course, strengthen itself and have its, all these options, and to make it into a destination for other countries, for other companies, big companies, high-tech companies, and for both, for as a market and also for setting up in India and innovating in India with its huge talent that we have a huge skill set, a demography with the required skill set, and we can leverage that, and we should leverage that. But with the US, it's, of course, we cannot deny that it's the only superpower, and it is important for us to have a good relationship with them. I think that will continue. But while, we don't know how it's going to, even once a trade decision is taken, I think probably as some observers have said, President Trump has got upset over the fact that we didn't give him credit for getting peace in the continent. So maybe those issues will remain for some time, but I think if the trade deal gets through, he has said that big deal with TikTok has come for China, so he has forgiven China for not, it seems that he's a little better, okay, vis-a-vis China. But yet with India, he hasn't got that. So maybe, and the way he has been functioning. So I don't know how we can right now find a way around all this, but yes, we can continue working on the rest of the relationship and try and create people-to-people contacts and strengthen that relationship and strengthen the collaboration in all other
Absolutely.
areas.
So while negotiations continue, both at the diplomatic level and there, of course, will be back-channel talks as well to make the Trump administration reconsider this decision. So the Trump administration for now may have gone ahead with this move of imposing $100,000 as H1B visa fee. But its ripple effects will be felt in boardrooms, also airports we've seen over the last 2 days or so, also in policy circles right from Bengaluru to Delhi to Washington. This debate clearly is far from over. We'll have to closely watch how the impact of this decision is more and more visible and felt in the days to come. With that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you, Ambassador and Mr. Payne, for joining us for this very insightful and engaging conversation. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.